guys, alright, so we're going to be creating the schemas from start to finish. I'll be showing you everything in real time. Here's some other examples of that exact same ski mask. I just applied some different patterns on here to give it a completely different look, but we'll be creating this from start to finish. And if anyone's wondering, the character that I'm using over here is a Genesis 3 male from Daz. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's get started. When you import your characters, they're usually facing straight on, as you can see in the 2D view, but we actually need to turn them to the side so that we get a side profile here. So under preferences, go to gizmo, select local coordinate, select your character, and just turn them to the side like this. Alright, I'm going to move mine a little bit forward, so it's sitting like that. And that's exactly what we need. And we are good to go. We'll be able to start drawing our pattern. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so let's start by selecting the rectangle and let's draw a shape that basically encompasses his head. Alright, because we're going to be shaping this rectangle to be similar to the shape of his head, but not exact. Alright, go to your fabric over here. First thing I'm going to do is decrease the opacity. We want to make it transparent so we can actually see the shape of his head. I'm also going to change the color to something darker. And my preset, I'm going to put this on wool because I find that wool just gives me some better folds and wrinkles when I'm creating a ski mask. We can also play with that later. And another thing I'm going to do, depending on how powerful your computer is, I would obviously never do this with a really complex garment, but this is a pretty simple garment that's just placed on the head. I'm bringing my particle distance down to 10 right from the start. I might take that down to 5 even, but yeah, that should be a good start. And now we can start shaping this. Okay, so I'm going to go to edit curvature. Let's curve this line, curve that one as well. Okay, and now I'm going to use the edit curve point, which is going to place these points onto your pattern, and it's going to allow you to just get some more refined shaping, and you can use that in conjunction with edit curvature as well, just to continue shaping this. Now you can see over here that this transition is actually quite sharp, so to round this off, make sure that you are in edit pattern, select that point, right click it and say convert to a curve point, and you can see that rounds that out for us. Now again, the shape does not need to be exactly the same as his head, but having it similar is going to help with the way that it fits. Now I'm going to make sure that this is actually quite close to his head from the start, because if it's too far up, there'll end up being too much fabric here, and it just leaves a lot of these wrinkles and folds on the top, and maybe that's something you're going for, but I'm not going for that now. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my edit curvature, bring this down, bring this point down again, and I'm going to right click, convert that to a curve point. Okay, so now if I want some more refined control with the shaping of this, go to the edit curve, and you see I can shape it just a little bit better by having these points available in my scene. So again, not making it 100% exact, but still trying to get it as close as possible to the shape of his head here at the back. So it's going to make a difference with the folds that get generated over there. Okay, so I'm actually going to go back to my edit pattern and just bring this down a little bit. I can move that point out again. You can see it's just a matter of shaping this until we get a pattern that we are happy with. Okay, so I'm going to also curve this over here by his chin and his neck, but I do want some fabric to still be loose over here. So I'll just put an edit curve point. Let me move this back over here. Let me bring that curve point forward again. And let's put a curve point over here for the chin. Okay. And now something we need to do over here. Whoops. Let me go back to my curve points. Let's move that up a bit. We actually need to create the shape over here for his eye hole. So I'm going to put another one of these points over here. And then I can go to my edit curvature and just bring this all the way back. Now this is one way of shaping. Actually, I think a more another way to shape this, just to have a little bit more control, is I'm going to put a point over here, another point over here, and I'm going to go to my edit pattern and just bring this back. Now you see it's going to be completely square, which is okay. Let me just drag, make sure I'm selecting both of those points. Bring this back, and over here by the nose, just to make this sit a little bit more flush, I'm going to add a point over here. Select this point and just move that back. It'll just sit a little bit better on the nose region, because sometimes the fabric can end up poking up over here. Okay, so let me go back, make some adjustments here again to the head, and that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'll show you the final shape that I ended up coming up with. Okay, so this is the shape that I ended up with, but obviously we can still keep adjusting this once it's on the character. Maybe some areas are going to have too much fabric, or some areas won't fit properly, so we can just adjust these points. So using this edit curve point is really useful for shaping your pattern. Okay, so this eye hole is going to be really large, so I actually want to decrease the size over here. Now the reason why I opted for this triangle instead of just curving it round over there is it just allows me to shape this a little bit better. So you can see now I can use curve points. I just have a little bit more control over how I want this to be shaped. So that can be round like that, and if we're not happy with that, we can always just go back and shape it again. So here we go. I'm going to go to my default fabric, bring up the opacity, and this is going to be our pattern for this side of the face. So now we need to go ahead and right click, go to symmetric pattern. It's really important you say symmetric so that any changes we make on this one will be applied to that one as well. Now I'm going to just rotate this. Now we might need to flip the normal. We'll see once it's sewed onto our character. You just place that there. Now go to your segment sewing. You want to sew this onto this. Right, so that's sewing it all the way there and down, and we want to sew this onto this. And actually, you know what, you can go to free sewing. That doesn't need to be separate sewing over there. Go to free sewing, select this, go to this side and select that, and it's going to sew this entire region together. And obviously you don't want to sew here by the eye holes. We need to leave that open, and you'll see now if I click simulate, bam, here we go. Okay, so let me start pulling this. And now the reason why I said I was going to go to 5, a particle distance of 5, is because sometimes you have problems with the ears, but to get past problems with the intersection with the ears like this, okay, so first of all let me put this on 5. Right, my PC can handle 5 right now, and it's a pretty simple garment, so I'm going to put that on 5, simulate. There we go. Now you can see there's still some errors with the nose, and the nice thing about putting it on 5 is you can actually start seeing some of the detail underneath our garment here, so you can see the nose and the lips as well. Okay, so to fix this, what you want to do is you want to go to scene, go to your object here by your avatar, and increase the skin offset. So I'm going to put mine on 2. And basically that's if offsetting the garment from the character. So I can put that on 2, just so I can pull this onto the ears. And then if I wanted it tighter again, I'll just go here and put my skin offset again on 1. And you can see over there it brought it back to where it was, but now it's over the ears. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so I'm going to continue shaping this. The eye hole just seems like it's a little bit too high over here, so I'm just going to bring this down a little bit. So I'm going to go to the edit pattern, hold down shift and just select all of these lines and just drag this down till about there. Now you can see this line here in the front by the nose is getting curved. Maybe you want that, or maybe take the shape of the nose, but if you want to remove the curve, you can select it, right click and say delete all curve points. So let's actually see how that looks. It's a little bit better. It's been brought down, and again, because it's a symmetric pattern, it's been applied on both sides. Okay, so now I actually want to create a better shape here with the nose. It follows the shape of, basically sits a lot better on the nose over here. So to do that, I'm going to go to my add point. I'm going to add a point over here. And select this first point over here and just move that up. Alright, so it's going to create almost like a triangle over here that just looks better in my opinion. Right now, the further the distance is of this triangle. Actually, hold on, let me see. We need to make it more prominent. So I might have to move this up a little bit more. And there we go. You can see that's the type of shape I'm trying to go for over there. And again, there's going to be a lot of pushing and pulling and adjusting certain stuff to get something you are happy with. So actually maybe this line, let's see if I move it back a little bit more. Yeah, now it looks like it's going to be even more prominent. And that's basically what I'm going for. You can see instead of it just being completely round, it goes round and then it goes up here and just follows the shape of the nose. And yeah, just push and pull until I'm happy. So I'm going to adjust this a little bit further and then I'll show you the result. Okay, so all I did here, you can see this is a lot more prominent. I just selected these lines and I basically moved them down a little bit more, and it gave me more shape over here, and it also moved this the eye hole down as well. So you can see it's starting to take shape now. And yeah, let's continue. Okay, so to get to this point, you can see there's a lot more wrinkles on here. It just appears that there's been more fabric added. The wrinkles and the folds over here are a lot more prominent, especially on the back. So how I did this was I went to my edit pattern, and you can see I extended the length of the neck region over here, and I just brought this out a little bit on the front and on the back as well. Then once I did that, I basically selected both of these patterns. I went to my default fabric and I changed my preset to PK jersey. I hope I'm saying that word correct. That's giving me some more wrinkles there. We can get even more wrinkles if we change that to our lightweight nylon. But basically where the magic came in for getting more wrinkles was, you can see over here, if I've got both patterns selected, my shrinkage weft is by default on 100. And if you increase that value, it's basically like adding more fabric onto your garment. So that's exactly what I did. I put it on 115. And if you had to put shrinkage warp on 115 as well, it's basically like increasing the size of the pattern. So it makes the garment bigger as well. So I didn't want mine to be too much larger. I just put mine on 105, which made it a little bit bigger. And then it gave me some more fabric on top of that. And then it was basically just me pushing and pulling and playing around with the fabric until I got a shape that I was happy with. Now if you had a shape or these folds that you're happy with like this, and you didn't want to, and you don't want these wrinkles to get lost, what you can do is you can select both of these patterns, right click and go to solidify, and solidify is going to try its best to keep the shape and these wrinkles even if you start moving it around. So that's just something you guys should keep in mind. Okay, so just to get this to look a little bit better, I'm actually going to use one of my textures from my 56 4K tileable fabric pack. So I'm going to go to my default fabric and I'm going to load in fabric 19 from the that's from part 1, and it's just going to give me a little bit better texture on here. And obviously the size of this is a little bit too large, so I'm going to go to my edit texture, select that and just drag this down to decrease its size. and it's just giving me a much more better representation of what this material would look like. And then I can just adjust the color, maybe bring that up a little bit so you guys can see that better. And there we go. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so for the purpose of this tutorial, we are doing a tight ski mask or ninja mask on our character. You'll see that if I go to default fabric and we change this to something like lightweight nylon, we're going to get even more wrinkles, more prominent and defined wrinkles on you. You'll see if I click simulate, it just seems to make some of the wrinkles a little bit more prominent on here. So playing around with some of the presets can also give you varied results as well. And now if you guys really wanted to control these folds that you see on the head over here, one way of doing that is by simply taking the shape of our character over here, and you can just move that in and make it closer to the back of the head, and that's going to make it tighter. And you'll see now, do that quickly. There we go. So those wrinkles are not as prominent as they were before, and we are good to go. So I might leave this on lightweight nylon because I like the folds that it's generating, and we can continue from here. Okay, so one thing I'm really not liking with this design is the back. It's just got this really harsh triangle shape on it, and I want to fix that. So to fix that, go to your add point. Let's add a point here and add a point over here. So just let that compute for a couple of seconds. Synchronization. See, we're adding a point there and adding a point here. Okay, now go back to your edit pattern, select that point, and just simply move this up. And what this is basically going to do is it's going to round out this back section. There you go. It's going to round it out like that. Click on simulate, make sure I still got my folds over here, and if I don't, I can just move that around manually to get them back. Now you can see it's going this little bit of stair steppiness over here. So to fix that, just select this point, right click and convert that to a curved point, and we'll round that out. There you go. Click simulate, and there we go. So you can do the same for the front if you think that's too sharp. But that's how you fix that back region. Okay, there's definitely more detail we can add onto this ski mask. So this is my character from GTA Online, and you can see over here on the ski mask it's got this detail over here. It almost looks like there's some piping applied over here. So to do this, we're going to use some internal lines. And by the way, all of this detail that you see over here as well, either you could do this in Marvelous Designer, or it would just be a lot easier to use a puckering brush in ZBrush to add that detail on. But anyway, let's create this detail on our ski mask. So we'll be doing that next. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this point and right click it and convert it to a curve point, just so this goes a little bit nice over here, instead of there isn't just an abrupt triangle or harsh transition. So let me see how this looks. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these lines, right click, offset as an internal line. I'm going to bring that all the way to 12, click on OK. So it's going to create this internal line, and I'm going to make sure that I've got internal line selected so I can see what's going on here. So that's fine. And then from here, select that internal line, right click and say cut and sew. So it's basically going to separate it from the garment. It's going to cut it off and then sew it back on. So it's a good way for separating pieces of your garment as well. Let me just click on simulate. Okay, there we go. You can see some of the ear came out there. That's not an issue. Okay, so now we are ready to continue modifying this. So if I wanted to, I could basically copy this fabric Let's increase its color. Select these pieces that just got separated and go to fabric 2, so you could have a completely different color over here on the front as well. So if that's something you're going for, that's basically how you do it. Right. Okay, so I never really export garments with thickness, but it's a good way to see how these pieces would look thick before I actually apply thickness in ZBrush. So I'm going to select this, make sure I'm on thick textured surface, and then change my thickness to something like 2, just to see how this would look. There we go, and that looks pretty cool. And if we wanted to, we could make this a little bit more rigid, so change it from lightweight nylon to S hardware, and it's just going to make this piece a little bit more rigid. And I think one more detail I'm going to put on here is some piping. Okay, so you want to go over here to piping. It's going to bring up all these white dots. So I'm going to start placing a point over there and go around to there. Left click to put another point, come back around, put a point there, a point there, and then connect it with that one, and it's going to create piping for us. So just let that synchronize, give it some time, and now your piping can be its own color as well. So there we go. Just let that simulate. I don't know why that's got a knot on it at the top. Okay, it sorts itself out. I'm going to bring this down to 1. And maybe the width is maybe too thick, so let's bring that all the way down to 2. Right, and then I'm going to click on simulate and just click away and see how this looks. There we go. It's just a nice added detail on our garment. Quick piping, and now I'm just going to fix this ear over there. And like I said, your piping can have its own color on it as well. So if I just copy this and maybe I said something like orange, and I go back to edit piping, select my piping, you see a fabric, you can change that to orange. Let's just make that a little bit more visible. There we go. So your piping can have its own color as well, which I think is pretty neat addition to Marvelous Designer. Okay, so I'm just going to continue adjusting this, pushing and pulling until I'm happy with the shape, and we'll continue from there. So I hope you guys are doing the exact same thing. I can see my piping. The reason why that is happening is because there's actually thickness applied to this piece over here. So if I brought that down to something like 1, the piping would be a little bit more visible. And there we go. So if that's a detail that you want added on there, you can do that. I'm just going to change my color maybe to a lighter gray. Okay, so let me just do some more pushing and pulling and adjusting the shape until I'm happy. Okay, so the only difference I made is I followed the exact same procedure that I just showed you guys, except when I was doing the offset over here for this line, instead of going to 12, I went to 8, because I felt like it just looked a little bit better if it was a little bit thinner and not so wide. Okay, so I think we are nearly done. You can see our ski mask has really taken shape now, and it's starting to really look like a ski mask with all these small details added on. Right. Okay, so at this point I would be considered finished with this project. You can see I just used the move brush to get some other folds in certain areas that I was happy with, and yeah, I would be considered finished. And then from here I would select the entire pattern file, export obj selected, and I would actually take this over to another program like ZBrush, where I would like literally sculpt in some puckering seams here just to push these seams a little bit further, and that would be it. So yeah, this is it, guys. Thank you for making it through to the end of this tutorial. I know it's been a pretty long tutorial for something that's also quite simple to do, and I tried to explain as much as possible and show everything to you in real time. So I hope you guys have learned something useful from this tutorial, and as always, stay tuned for some more tutorials, and goodbye.